excited to announce Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage. Focusing on the lives, experiences, and viewpoints of motherlode women, the show features a rotating cast of 4 women of all ages and from all walks of life. Quick, upbeat, and fast-paced with a variety of topics, this one-hour show will be aired live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 8:30 a.m. Tune in, it's Just Between Us.
Good morning and welcome to Just Between myself and Monique.
That's right, just us girls today.
Me and Mo. That's the way it's going to be today, just Monique and I. Martha's a little bit under the weather this morning, so she's not going to make it, but it's going to be you and I, kid.
We're going to have a great time.
Can't have a better partner than you.
That's right.
I'll tell you right now. So we're going to do our first 2 topics, and it's going to be teen dating, and it's going to be violence education.
Okay.
And then the next one is going to be on your image. So, Monique, I'm going to have you roll the dice and tell me which question you'd like me to do.
How about number 4?
Okay. Let's see. Did you know that one in 4 teens in a relationship say that they have been called names, harassed, or put down by their partner through cell phones and texting?
Absolutely.
I didn't know that. That's a lot.
That's a tough one, too, because that's just not right.
No, it's not. And then for images, I'll have you roll again. And
1.
Okay. Do you project your image as your true personality, or do you guard your image?
Well, that's a really fun question, and I have a lot to say about that.
Good. So when we come back, Monique's going to tell me what she thinks about the image, and we're going to be talking about teen dating and what a lot of 25% of girls go through. So stay with us, and we're going to be right back.
You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Welcome back to Just Between Us, and we're going to be talking about our first topic. Ready, Monique?
I am so ready.
All right, sweetie. Did you know that 1 in 4 teens in a relationship, that's 25%, say that they have been called names, harassed, or put down by their partner through cell phones or texting?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, just having a teenage daughter myself, it's not just her, it's any of the kids, some of her friends and their relationships. I look at other parents and, their relationships with their kids and how their kids get along with the other students. I think that's pretty prevalent. And, for boy and girl relationships, dating in high school, that is completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
I think because then you're establishing the way you're going to be. I'm going to treat this girl like this because I got away with this at this point, and that worked. Same thing with girls, if they're not respectful to these young gentlemen and either don't respect their manhood or their leadership, or just simply, as a friendship, they're setting that kid up for failure as well, because they're saying, well, I don't have to respect you. I don't need to go down this path. And I think it's just super important.
Well, I agree, and I think that the sad thing is that you would think, because of the media, the social highway that we have today, and all the different things that they have, you would think that for Pete's sake, that would be the last thing you want to broadcast things on, because it's out there and everybody can see it. And I just think that if there's going to be a breakup, or if there's somebody that you don't like or whatever, you've got to learn to have a little bit respect and restrain.
Sure.
Know?
Well, you want to be proud of the image that you portray and the person that you are acting like. And I can say, just from personal experience, that people do forward your personal texts. You text your boyfriend, and he doesn't like what you have to say, he may text it to his mother or his father or his friends or your girlfriends. And so there's no privacy there. Just because you think you're sending a message to another person doesn't mean anything. Those things get forwarded all the time. And Facebook is a public venue. You might as well stand out in the street and yell what you have to say, because everybody's listening.
True. And the one good thing now is that there are new different laws that are going to be starting to come into play pretty soon. And these people on Facebook, what they seem to forget is that they can delete it. But if there's a hard copy made and you can use that, when you go to court, that could be used against you. And so I would say this, that if you're going to say something to somebody about someone else, or you're going to badmouth them, or whatever you're going to do, you better get on the phone and have a conversation one-on-one with somebody. Because anytime you put something on Facebook or your email and a copy can be made, that person has a hard copy and a record to
Be
to be
prepared to
used.
see it again.
Be prepared, absolutely. But I don't understand the immaturity. I mean, the teens are the immaturity of the teens. I understand. You know, you hurt my
Teens?
feelings. But
Adults!
That's exactly it. There are adults out there that, for God's sakes, Monique, they're worse than kids.
I know.
They act like
It's their emotions. Their emotions get wrapped up, and they feel like they're venting to their friend when they're really just putting a status on Facebook. And it's not just your friends, because a lot of your Facebook friends are acquaintances, not necessarily good friends. But then, you know, other people can see their wall, which you
Sure.
posted towards, and so
And
it's
remember,
very, very
when you
viewable.
lose it, and you vent and you go berserk on there, you already lost because you've lost it. And so you're showing that, these people are getting to me, and now I've made it myself look like a darn fool.
I know.
And you just don't. I don't know. The image, like I say, there's some adults that they act like 16-year-olds, and in essence, what they're doing is they're making themselves look like a bunch of fools, and people are laughing at them behind their back.
I know, and that's a shame.
And well, if they're gonna, I used to think the same way, but I think that if you continue to have that type of behavior, then you deserve everything that you get.
Right,
And
right.
maybe, just maybe, when you're either hauled into court or somebody comes back and says something to you, maybe you'll get the hint. Because I'll tell you what, there are people that can dish it out, but they can't take it.
Definitely.
And I always say, stand by, because the day's going to come when this is going to come around and bite you a good one.
And it usually does.
And it usually does.
And usually
So-
when you least expect it, too.
you betcha. You betcha. So let's move on to image.
Okay.
Do you project your image as your true personality, or are you a little guarded in your image?
It's so funny that that topic was brought up today because a dear friend of mine and I were speaking, and we're talking about, new romance and how people portray themselves when they're on their best behavior.
Sure.
So we call that person that's on their best behavior in the new relationship your representative, because they're not really you. They're
Yeah.
representing you, but a lot
What
of
you want them to
times-
perceive you to.
Yes, right. But a lot of times, it's somebody that you've made up in your head that you'd like other people to think who you are. And to an extent, everybody does it.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
How far during, the relationship do you finally come out and say, okay, well, this really is who I am, and this is how I act in the morning when I'm cranky, and whatever, you develop into your own person. But does it take 2 years to get to that point? Does it take a month?
I think it depends on the two personalities,
Yeah.
and it depends on how comfortable you are with each other. I have seen married people married for 20 plus years, and you still see that kind of that barrier there, like
Right.
that they don't burp in front of each other, or let it go, whatever.
Yeah.
You just know that they're the type of people that are always prim and proper. And to me, you got to be you.
You do. You do.
And I think you've got to be comfortable. You got to be able to get up in the morning, and if your hair's sticking straight up in the air and you don't want to put makeup on for a few hours and you look like heck, you don't always have to be on. You don't always have to
Right.
have every hair in place, or your makeup doesn't have to be perfect. You need to, other people, especially the ones that you're involved with, that you're in love with in a relationship, you need to let them see the inner person,
Right.
because the outer person doesn't make a blasted bit of difference. And a
No.
lot of people don't get that, and when they're trying to project their image, and of course we all want to look presentable and nice,
Sure.
and it's that honeymoon period, as they call it.
Right.
But I think that women have that. They protect their image much more than men
I
do.
do too. I do too.
I
Well, the
think that's
personal
it.
image of a woman is really kind of blown out of proportion, especially these days. But you feel like you can't go out of the house to the grocery store without makeup on. It's kind of evolved into that situation. If you think about the 50s and 60s, people
Sure.
weren't very passionate about that, and nowadays it is
Right.
more so. But at least at home, you should be able to walk around in your pajamas, or not
Oh,
get
absolutely.
completely dressed for the day.
Absolutely.
and feel comfortable and be who you are.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's really funny, because a lot of times, what's the first thing you see somebody downtown and their makeup's not on, or whatever, and you get in the car and you go, oh my
what's
God,
wrong?"
what the hell happened? What the hell happened to her?
Yeah.
And yet that person's the same person inside. It's just that you're so used to seeing them project that
That image, yeah.
And I think I think that a lot of young kids today, I think it's kind of cool with the young kids today because they have no problem with putting their hair up in a ponytail and going without makeup.
Keeping it simple.
And keeping it simple. Whereas when you get old, well, especially my age, you worry more about your appearance, I think, or I would hope that a lot of people do, because I think it's important. I don't think that people should ever let down and say, oh, just because I'm a certain age, or
I'm going to give up on my
absolutely
personal
not.
image. No.
I've seen women do that. Like, my kids are grown, or I'm divorced, or I'm a widow, or whatever, and you're still young in your 50s and 60s, and I don't care anymore. That's the time you should
Even
care.
more of a reason, because you want to
You
boost your
should come first.
self-esteem and feel
Yes.
good about who you are, what you look like, and what you do.
Yeah. And I agree, and it's like you, for example. I have never once ever seen you. You always look fantastic, and you
Thank
always
you.
put together. And there may be days where you don't feel like it, but you don't project that. You're always put together, and I really admire that in people. I think that it's important for your inner soul and your self-respect to try to project yourself
I want to
and make yourself look
feel
good.
good when I leave the house.
Right.
I remember when I had the Foxes in, I worked a lot of hours.
Sure.
And occasionally I wouldn't get to the point where I had time to put my makeup on that day.
Right.
And I remember one time I went to my mom's house for lunch. She was going to make me a sandwich and just chat with her real quick. And I walk in the door. She looks at me. She goes, "What's wrong?" I go, "Nothing." "Well, you look like you're sick." And I said, "I'm not sick." She goes, "Well, you don't have any makeup on. Is everything okay?" And
See?
so she noticed, my mom of all people noticed,
noticed
right
right
away
away.
that I looked strange, and I hadn't noticed just because I was, busy that day. And I go, "Oh." I looked in the mirror and I go, "Oh, I guess I do kind of look a little funny."
No, I just think, personally, I just think that is something that when you're working and full-time mother, full-time working, especially owning your own business, and you have other responsibilities, I see nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think that that there are times where throwing your hair up and going without makeup is totally
Am I going to get my daughter to school on time, or am I
Right.
going to primp myself?
Right.
Well, I need to get her to school
and
on
it's
time,
totally
and I need to
justified.
get to work.
But
Yeah.
but I think what we're trying to say and what we're trying to project is that if you do have the time, even though you've been with that man for 25 years, he loves me the way I am or whatever, surprise him.
Yeah.
Surprise yourself. Look in that mirror and say, "My God, I look good."
Even if your husband comes home at 9 o'clock at night, if you're still awake, put a little lipstick on, brush your hair, make sure you smell nice,
Absolutely.
and you're clean and your teeth are brushed. You want that man to look forward to coming home.
And to quote Martha, "Get the whipped cream out and get ready to rock and roll."
I love her.
As she says. All righty, we're going to take two more topics. One is going to be a free-for-all that we're going to discuss and surprise them, and the next one is rumors. And give me a number,
I'm
kid.
going to roll it here. 4.
Okay, it says, the long-term damage of a rumor. Okie dokie. So we'll be discussing that.
Okay.
We're going to take a very short break, and we're going to come back and we're going to do our free-for-all for you, and we're going to do rumors, and we're going to be talking about the long-term damage of an ugly rumor. Be right back.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage.
Welcome back to Just Between Monique and myself.
That's right.
And so that's what we're going to call it today. And Monique, our first question is going to be, do you know the damages, or have you been subjected to damages or seen somebody subjected to them of a long-term caused by rumors?
It's funny because I thought that at this point in this age of my life that a rumor would be something that, we're a little too mature to even go there with. But I think people that are unhappy pick a subject or something to talk negatively about you because they don't like you, or they're jealous, or whatever their reasonings are. And occasionally that'll come up. Most of the time I think people that know me well enough to be able to see through that, especially if it's, defacing my character or the type of person that I am or my motherhood or, whatever.
Right.
But that has come up not long ago, and I
Well,
thought,
defamation of a
Really?
person's character, it bites.
Yeah.
And it's I don't care if it's rumor or not. It is something that you don't go after, and you don't question people on certain things. And to lash out with somebody like that, there can be long effects. Look what just happened to this young girl. Here we go again. Kids bullying and
Right.
spreading rumors and doing things like that, and they commit suicide.
Right.
And this has got to stop.
They can't handle the pressure.
I mean, we have too many kids today that are committing suicide. And for me, I could have sworn kids are better today than they have been, but I'm getting to see that.
So much public forum, the embarrassment of a rumor or a mistake is just devastating to young people.
You would
Really?
hope and think that a lot of them can come back on their network and say, so and so is just spreading a rumor that is not true, and personally you can't hurt me, and if you want to believe that, believe it, and if you want to spread it because you know what, it's not true, and move on. Don't look back and don't go back to it, because usually they have a very short life,
Right.
and they'll peter out and die, as long as you don't feed the flame.
Exactly, when they're fueled by, no, I didn't do that, no, you're
Right.
this and that too.
Right.
Then that just keeps it escalating.
But it's not, like I said, these are the type of people that will lash out and keep it up and keep it up and keep it up and keep saying things and calling names and this and that. But yet you turn around one time and call them on the carpet for it, and it's like you've just beaten them up.
Right.
And it's like, well, if you can't take it, then maybe you should think twice about dishing it out.
Absolutely.
And especially with these young kids, I mean, you've got to think twice about when you spread rumors or when you do something like that. Because I'll tell you what, we didn't have all of that in my day, the media,
Right.
The social network, I should say. But I will tell you right now, I would not want to have someone commit suicide knowing that I might have known about the rumor, said the rumor, or laughed about the rumor, and knowing that, and to have to live with something
Right.
like that. You may think that you can live with it now, but when you get older
And your conscience develops.
and you have children or you have grandchildren and you see what you put this person through, how many times do you see these shows where they do a reunion thing where the kid was fat in school or whatever, and the kid comes out and they've got this beautiful body and they meet somebody that bullied them and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like, you see, and that person usually always says, I didn't realize I was doing that, or I'm sorry I did that.
Absolutely.
And you've got to be responsible for your actions and what comes out of your mouth.
When you're a young person, though, you don't really see the negative effects it has on the other person. It makes you look popular and funny,
Yeah.
and you have control over the person you're picking on or talking about. And there's a lot of mean girl, mean boy still going on, where if a person feels wrong, they feel like they have the privilege of attacking that person in a public forum, such as Facebook or at school. And back when we were younger, there wasn't Facebook, and
No.
if things were really bad, or even let's say the rumor was true and just embarrassing, you made a mistake, your parents moved you to another school. Now, do
Absolutely.
you remember, I think it was a year or two ago, where a young lady, I think she had posted an inappropriate photo on Facebook or texted it to someone, and then it became viral and everybody saw it. Well, yes, big mistake, bad judge of character.
Well,
too
look
bad.
at people like Kim Kardashian
Sure.
and Ray J and Paris Hilton, those that do the sex tapes and stuff. Do you honestly think that something like that is not going to get out?
Well, as a young girl, and maybe a teenager, maybe she never thought the person she sent it to would ever,
Ever post it.
Yeah, would begrudge her trust. But that does happen. So this young
Yeah,
girl
big
was
time.
ridiculed by everybody in her school. She moved schools. Her, parents moved her to a different school. Well, with Facebook, just because you move schools doesn't mean that you get
follows.
rid of that.
Right.
It came back on her 10 times more. She killed herself.
Right.
She couldn't handle the pressure. She couldn't handle the sadness, the aloneness, and the embarrassment.
Anytime you do anything on film, on tape, film, whatever, social media, whatever you do, once there's a copy, it's always going to be there unless you
Right.
take it and burn it and destroy it and do what you want. But you better make sure that just because you're with somebody or just because you've told somebody something, that it is going to be private and sacred. Think again, because there's people that if they want to get back at you, that is the perfect opportunity and the perfect way to do something like that.
Absolutely.
And by gosh, I think we better start having a lot more personal responsibility.
Well, one thing that people forget about is called the cloud, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but on these new smartphones,
Right.
Unless you opt out of it, all of your photos are saved on the cloud, which is an external storage device
Right.
hosted by, say, Yahoo or Windows or Microsoft, whatever. So if you lose your phone, you drop your phone, you can retrieve your photos. Well, you don't have to press a button and send it to it. It's automatically uploaded into this external storage area. So that's great, if you happen to break your phone or you lose it. It's not great, though, if you take a photo thinking you're taking it in confidence. Maybe it's even a photo to send to your plastic surgeon to say, I've
Right.
got this spot here, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
All of a sudden, that
There you go.
can be very available.
Yep.
And it's scary.
Yeah, it is. We're going to be talking about our first free-for-all, and our first free-for-all is going to be about holiday cooking, which is right up Monique's
That's
alley.
right.
So let me hear it, kid. What is something that you, one food item that you always know that come the holidays, it's going to be on your menu?
It's a turkey, baby.
Yeah.
Gotta have my turkey. My daughter, very traditional young lady, and I remember one year I put a Spanish twist to the whole Thanksgiving thing. You should have seen her face. She
It was like, what are you doing?
What? Okay, we won't brine it in the Madeira wine. We won't ever do that again.
How funny is that? Well, I'm kind of with Morgan on that. Salt and pepper and roast that turkey. I mean, that's just,
I was just trying
tradition.
to, shake it up. It was still a turkey. It was still the carrots. It was still,
Right.
the dressing. But it had very heavy Spanish theme. And she just looked a little shocked.
That's Mom, that's fine for leftovers, maybe. But that day, you got to go by tradition. I was
agree.
raised in an Italian home, so we started out with the antipasto. Then we started out with the lunch meat and the cheese.
Right.
And then we had, then you had obviously everything else. But my nonni, when we used to get together, it was the turkey, and there would be roast, and the ham was always for like Easter or
Right.
sometimes Christmas and stuff. But it was always, you had to have the pasta first, that was there. And then your salad, and then you had the other stuff that went along with the Thanksgiving dinner. But we've kind of gotten away from some of that. But I still, once in a while, I make the antipasto because I like to do it. I do it the old.
Traditional. It's always the same way
I
every
agree,
year.
but it's got to be mashed potatoes. It has to be the turkey. It has to be the stuffing,
Stuffing or
and,
dressing,
and yes, and then you have the, you can make the Jello ring or whatever. But you always
And the
have
green
to do.
bean casserole.
Yeah,
Have
I've
to have
never
that.
done that. I've never done that. I always do.
It's a tradition in our family.
I always do Brussels sprouts cut in half, sautéed with bacon, and I steam them first, and then I saute them with bacon and onion and mushrooms.
Sounds
And
delicious.
garlic. And it's very, very good for people that don't like
And what
Brussels
time is
sprouts.
dinner on Thanksgiving
Yeah,
exactly?
really. Really. Believe me, I enjoy doing it, but I know that a lot of people, if they're alone, that one year we had no power. We had everything ready to go. We were out of power for 8 days up there.
Oh my goodness.
So my neighbors and we took off, and it was snowing, obviously. We took off. We went down to the rancheria, and we were all like really hanging lip because we go, oh my gosh, eating out. It was one of the most enjoyable Thanksgivings. There was all of these other people there, and we had a great time.
Yeah.
So then when we had power come up a few days later, then we did the next thing.
Recreated it.
We recreated our own Thanksgiving, but I don't know. I mean, it's just not like for this holiday, or Christmas. There's Easter. People do the ham for Easter.
Yeah.
4th of July, hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever.
It's a tradition for each holiday.
It is. It is. There's a tradition for each holiday, and it's a lot of fun. But I know there are people that, like for Italians, the night before Christmas, that you have the 7 fishes.
Right.
You do that. And a lot of people make the cioppino,
yeah.
which I mean, I don't
Delicious.
do, which is great. And then I believe in Martha, I think in her tradition they do the tamales. They have to have the tamales the night before. I think that's how they do
Our
that.
night before Christmas, which is Christmas Eve, is always a German spread of German cold cuts, different types of sausages, German potato salad, the different German mustards, the little Cornichon pickles, and it's the same every year since I was a kid.
Right, and that's exactly how I was raised. Like I say, in an Italian. Both sides of my family are Italian, so that was something that that we stuck to.
Yeah.
The traditions, but we had to put the Italian thing in there.
Of course.
Before, but that was it. But is there anything that you do for holiday cooking that would be considered unusual, or have you ever done anything unusual for a holiday?
I love to cook, and then I do like to shake it up a little bit once in a while.
Right.
I love the tradition of the turkey, etc. Like the one year I told you about where I put the Spanish theme on it.
Right.
I think one of the good tips that maybe a lot of people don't know is that when your turkey is defrosting in the fridge, the night before you're going to cook it, take the plastic off and let some of the moisture off of the bird. You're going to get crispier skin. And I think that is the ticket.
Right.
And then I have let my turkey sit for up to 2 hours after cooking on Thanksgiving because people are late or the sides aren't done.
And you leave it out?
I leave it out and I leave it just tented,
Yeah.
The food is still hot an hour or two later and the flavor's better because the juices don't run out when you carve it.
I'll be darned.
I've had the best turkeys when I think, oh, it's ruined, it's a goner, it's not going to survive it. It's turned out great.
I'll be darned. Okay, we're going to do our last one. It's parenting skills. Another thing you can do to keep your turkey going is put it in a cooler and close it, and it keeps it warm. Yeah.
I'm going to roll it.
Okay, parenting skills number 4. Is it the responsibility of the schools, neighbors, family, or even clergy to help parents develop better parenting skills? That we're going to have another free-for-all. Be right back.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage.
Welcome back. I'm Susie from Volcano.
I'm Monique from Pioneer now.
I think that's great. You know what? For the free-for-all, we're going to do something. Let's do about moving in a new place and how you feel.
Oh, boy, do I have a story for you.
Good, we'll do that. But first of all, we're going to do parenting skills, and we're going to be talking about, is it the responsibility of the schools, of the neighbors, of family, or even the clergy to help parents develop better parenting skills? Austin, are you getting undressed over there, darling, or what? Oh, you're just changing and putting on your okay. Monique and I were watching, and he was over there.
It's a tough, that's a tough call because it's almost, when I was raised, the way my folks raised me and the values that your family raises you.
Yes.
And that, if your neighbor were to say, I really don't like that your daughter does this, this, and this.
That was none of your business.
Offensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Now people are into the idea of it takes a village to raise a child.
Sometimes it takes a village idiot.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I don't know. I think that if you're having problems, I think it's a good idea maybe if you want to talk to your clergy. If your child having problem at school, yeah, go and talk. But the thing is that I think that everybody today is in everybody else's business. And when you had something going on in your home, it stayed there. It was a stigma, or it was embarrassing for something to get out.
Absolutely.
So it was something that you kept under wraps and in your family. I don't want other people interfering in my family. I don't need the clergy. I don't need my neighbors. I don't need the schools. It's not their responsibility.
Right.
I gave birth. It is my responsibility. I think that if a parent needs help, that is the time that they should reach out and say, I need help for the welfare of the children. That's the most
Absolutely.
important thing. You could take, if you're having something breaking down in your family, you could take your child to the police department, to the fire department. There's social services. There's places that will help you and help you get on, take your child so it eliminates them from that element, the element of any type of sexual or physical abuse, or making sure that child has food and clothing.
Right.
So I understand reaching out for that. But if
For necessities.
For necessities. But if you're having specific problems in your family, with that, I think that you need to look at the person that's raising the children.
That's
I think you're the one that needs to hey, I need to get a handle on this.
Parent
What am I-
responsibility.
Yeah.
Be responsible for your kids. You
Well,
know, it's
how
not
many,
easy.
How many shows, Monique, do we see today where the father is not in the picture,
It's so true.
or they have 5 or 6 kids, and well, we're engaged to be married? Don't you think that the engagement ring should come before
I think
the
that comes
5
before.
kids?
Yeah,
The
I
5
do
kids?
agree. Well, that's just a lapse in our, you know,
I mean, it's
morality
it's
and our
acceptable.
judgment. It is acceptable nowadays. But if you want to raise this family and you want to be, you know, a parent that is very, very active in the family, you also need to conduct yourself in an appropriate way.
Right.
You know, unless you want your kids to turn out just like you. Maybe that's a good thing, but if that's not a good thing, straighten up.
I mean,
it's time to get it together.
Everybody's entitled. Everybody has had a lapse in judgment or an, you know, a mishap or whatever.
happens,
and there's
sure.
nothing. I've been a single parent of 2 daughters, and I was very blessed because they both turned out. They're both beautiful kids and turned out great. However, the thing is that going it alone, and when the father's not in the picture, it could be a little rough. But we've had a lot of women go it alone due to their husbands in the military.
Sure.
Their husband's been killed.
Yep.
You know, through illness or accident or military. You do have single parents, and they do great jobs. However, if you have 2 parents that are co-parenting and it's not getting done, reaching out to the clergy, to the school, to neighbors, that's not your answer. The answer is you 2 people need to sit down and talk about things. You've got a big problem going on there, and it's rubbing off and it's reflecting on your children.
Right. And it's not only an embarrassment for your kids because if there's a public knowledge of something being wrong, but you know, you have to think about yourself and say, am I doing the best job that I can? You know, there's a lot of parenting classes that you can sign yourself up
Right.
for. There are counselors where, you know, I remember when I was first going through a divorce, I could tell my daughter was really upset, needless
Sure,
to say.
of
And we
course.
just weren't communicating well because she was angry, and
Sure.
rightly so. Her and I went to see, you know, like a family and marriage counselor.
Which is wonderful.
Together, her and I, because I
Wonderful.
wasn't able to talk to her without her getting frustrated with me. And I learned so many new ways on how to listen better because I wasn't listening, I was talking,
Right.
which I do sometimes. But but yeah, there's ways like that where you learn
I'm
different
all for
parenting
marriage
skills.
counseling and family counseling. I am a #1 proponent for that. The clergy, they know, but sometimes the advice is try to work it out, you do the best for the kids, you know, it's the standard.
Right.
The school, it should not be any of their business because
Absolutely.
things can slip out. Neighbors know more than what you know. Okay, and it's like I said before, a lot of times, like I said, nobody knows what goes on behind closed doors between a man and a woman and their family, including the man and the woman sometimes, and the
right.
kids. So I think that the best thing to do is, if you reach out to a professional, sometimes that is the best because they can give you an insight that you or your spouse or your partner or your child can't see. Anyway, we're going to go on to our next free-for-all. And
Okay.
Monique, we're going to talk about moving and the hassles and the grunts and groans and everything else because you
Yes.
just went through this, and we're not going to tell people where we live, but
Yes,
they
yes.
know we live up country.
Yeah.
But moving,
Well, I counted before I moved, and I do believe it's 23 moves in 43 years.
oh wow, you've done a lot
So
of moving.
we moved quite a few times as a kid, but I also moved a lot as a young adult. And then when I got married, we'd buy a house, we'd fix it up, wait for the market to go up, sell it a year or 2 later, and
Sure.
that's kind of how we started to build, you know, our equity in our home and our nest egg. And so that's pretty common. I mean, to live in a house more than 2 years is a little strange for me.
Right.
You know,
but
that's
this is the final move, you think?
I will never move my stuff again.
It's a
It was, and you know, I've packed. I pack it. I've got an organizational way to do it. I label the boxes well. I have a moving company come and move the boxes and the heavy stuff. It's the same every time, and it's worked out great. This time, I actually hired a company that I used when I moved from Pine Grove to Ione, and the company did an excellent job. The crew they sent out this past move was just a complete freaking disaster. And I won't mention names, you know, I don't want to disparage anyone. Not a local company, Sacramento, but it just was so unorganized. The people, the crew themselves didn't get along, so they're constantly arguing about how to do things.
Oh my God. That or they're on their cell phone.
Oh, well, they're just arguing with each other. They wasted more time trying to plan how to move these large pieces of furniture than actually working. And it should have been a 12-hour move, okay, maximum, maybe 8 to 12. We had 4 guys, 2 trucks.
Yeah.
My house is only 1,700 square feet. It's not a huge house.
Well,
The
but
other
still.
one was a little bit bigger. There's storage boxes, but it shouldn't be that difficult. And it took 2 full days.
Oh,
A 10-hour
my.
day the first day and a 12 or more hour day the
I bet
next
you
day.
couldn't wait when they got in the truck and
I
left.
was exhausted, of course. It is, it's always taxing and it's
Right.
tiring. I'm not the one picking up the things, but put this here, put this there, watch out for this,
Right.
watch out for that. It was just unbelievable. And then, of course, the truck breaks down on the way up the hill, so that wasted another hour or 2 of my time.
my.
And then they ended up finishing the delivery at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they didn't even get my signature when they left. But what they did is the last load they picked up from my previous house, they put everything in the garage. So I had 8 wardrobe boxes in the garage that need to come up to the main house to put in the closets. How am I supposed to get a wardrobe box up the stairs? Come
Oh,
on.
my.
The box is bigger than I am, literally,
So what'd you do?
Well, I did a little complaining and then just decided, okay, well, I'm gonna have to figure this out because they wouldn't give any time. They wouldn't send anybody over to put things in the place. They said, I'll put it anywhere you want. Well, if you deliver at 3 in the morning,
my.
they just put it in there because they wanted to go home, and they left. And so that's how it worked out. So I had some really great help from some friends of mine and some people that will work for me occasionally, and a dear friend of mine that's always there for me. And so between us, we ended up moving everything in the right place. Then I spent one whole day rearranging that garage because it looked like somebody opened up a dump truck in there.
I think that the best thing that after, which I have found because I haven't moved a heck of a lot, but I've had some moves, is that when everybody leaves, they leave you alone and then let you take your time and do box after box after box. And before you know it, the stress just leaves because it's you by yourself in your new
That's
house.
exactly
So
right.
congratulations. I'm
Well, I love the
excited.
new house, and it's
I'm
a great home.
It's
And
a
it
log
didn't
cabin.
take that long to get unpacked because I had a trip planned for my daughter's 18th birthday to take her to Paris. The move finished on a Friday. We left the following Friday, and when I
Perfect.
left, almost the entire house was unpacked.
And then when you came home, it's like
It was a home to come home to.
It was a home to come home. And it was a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so you and Morgan had a great time.
Oh
in
my
Paris?
gosh, we had a great time. Mom-daughter trip. We had a great flight. It was direct, so
Good.
SFO to Paris, and then we spent 5 days there. We went out
Did
to
you get to go out
eat.
to the countryside a little?
We didn't because it was more of a girly trip. So we went to the Louvre. We had amazing French dinners, lots of great stinky French cheese,
Oh, how
champagne. Morgan had champagne because their drinking age is 16.
Right.
And she turned 18. So I took her to Le Moulin Rouge, which is just a very famous show.
How exciting.
And we loved it. And it was really, really interesting.
How fun is that?
So that was a great time. Then we went to New York, and a friend of us joined us there, and we shopped and ate. I took her to see Once, which is a Broadway play,
Right.
a newer one.
Right.
Very, very good.
Very good?
Yes, beautiful music and great storyline.
And I bet she loved the stores.
She did, of course.
Great.
Well, she
Now,
and I are big
were you
shoppers.
able? Courtney went last year. She flew to New Jersey with her softball team,
Mm-hmm.
and they spent the day in New York. And they got to go to Rockefeller Center and
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and to Ground Zero. And their coach made them Google a name that was affiliated with the Twin Towers.
Sure.
And did that, and so it was very emotional for her.
Yeah.
Very moving.
I think for Morgan also, and for me, we've both been to Ground Zero a couple times.
Yeah.
But now the park is completed, and it's really beautiful.
Right.
Really just a nice place to sit and
Wonderful.
think.
I'm glad you got to do that. We're going to take a short break, come back and hit you up with our hot topic. Be with us, and we will be right back.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage.
There we are. Okay, Monique. Ready for a hot topic?
I am so ready.
All right, honey. Do you think that teachers should be offered the same psychological services that students are offered after a school shooting or some
I think they
Tragedy.
need more than that. I
Right.
mean,
I always
because
assumed
they're
that they
leading the
did.
show.
yeah.
They're going to be the examples for these students that have been traumatized. And as as the person with the most responsibility, which is the teacher in the classroom, if somebody's injured, hurt, killed, they feel an inherent responsibility because those kids were in their care.
Well, look at that brave teacher that stood in front of that kid and tried to make him stop, and he shot the
Yeah.
teacher. I would think that the teachers would go through some type of, usually they're with the kids, they stick closer to glue with the kids during a tragedy, and they're
Right.
like in the auditorium, and they're there with them and whatever. I think that the hardest thing for the teacher is for them to be strong, because then they really have to be a leader. They have to be a lot of things at that time, a surrogate parent while they're away from their parents.
Absolutely.
They have to be not only their teacher, but they have to be a comforter.
Calm and in control.
They have to be calm, in control. They have to show the compassion without breaking down. When the kids see them break, it's like if you see your parent break down,
You know something's
you know
wrong.
there's something wrong, and then you automatically break down.
Sure.
So I really feel that, I'm surprised.
I'm surprised it's not mandatory after some type of really traumatic psychological event like that. Because you'd almost say, okay, you as a teacher need to be trained, educated, and counseled so that your mind is strong and you go forward with the rest of the year.
Especially
and keep
like
these
when
kids strong.
when the kids leave and they go home, the teachers have to band together. They've got their own. They've got their spouses. They've got their own children.
Right.
If they don't, they've got other people that that they've got to comfort them, and they've got to relate to them. And I would believe that after a tragedy of that type of magnitude, where death is involved, because I remember when a kid from our class drowned and in junior high, and it was devastating to me because I adored him. He was the nicest kid.
We had deaths like that too.
And it was
yeah.
just something that, and it wasn't the violence that some of these kids witness and see,
Right.
At school. So I would think that a teacher, most definitely, I think that maybe it should be written now, mandatory, that in all schools, that there is a certain amount of a trauma type of, maybe a
Counseling
seminar,
service, yeah.
counseling, maybe if it's even just a couple of hours to touch on the hot spots on what you have to do
Sure.
in the event of that. And where do you draw your strength?
Well, yeah, I
as a
think the
teacher?
pre-counseling is always something where you want to know how to handle it in a situation should it arise. But I'm talking even about post-fact, the day after this horrible event. I think about survivor's guilt. You're the teacher, and some of your
Yeah.
students have perished.
Right.
That is a real thing. That happens in a lot
What
of
could have I
traumatic
done
situations.
more? What could I've said? What could I do?
Absolutely. Even
I mean,
if it's not reality,
Right.
because, these situations go so quickly, there's very little that can be controlled
Right.
at the time. But there's still that guilt of, well, I'm an adult. What happened to the students? And here I am.
I mean, what do we do now? Do we get metal, bulletproof doors, or whatever, or bullet-resistant
They're
glass, and lock?
deterrents.
And when the class comes when the bell rings and everybody's in their seat, do we lock the doors to the classroom? Would that be more safe? Where
we're
somebody
just-
can't just open the door and walk in.
We're talking about deterrence. We had 2 armed robberies at the jewelry stores that I owned back in the 80s and early 90s. We took every measure after the first one to make sure a second one didn't happen.
Right.
And, they have we had the doors with the lock and
Right.
blah, blah, blah. All it did was deter, because it happened again 3 months later.
Absolutely. And, I taught robbery training and at the bank as a security director. And I used to always tell the people when they would come in, if you've never been through a traumatic experience or robbery, stand by, because the person next to you or the person in somebody else or yourself, you're going to be subjected to that.
Right.
90% you're going to be subjected to that. So it is something that happens. Austin has given me the cut sign. I think I got another minute. I got to go? Okay, we're going to go, and we're going to come back and wrap it up for you. That was fast.
The whole time went
That
by
went
fast.
very,
Holy
very
cow.
fast.
Just Between Us, a spontaneous, intuitive live television show with topics that are intended to inspire, delight, educate, and encourage.
Hey, if you want to get a hold of us, we're at 223-4877, or you can fax us at 223-4866, or you can email us at bookme@tspntv.com. So I am glad I'm glad you moved, and you're
Oh,
in
I'm so thrilled.
You're in your little log cabin like
it's
I am.
comfortable, beautiful bathrooms, jacuzzi on the deck. I'm just in
Oh,
heaven.
how exciting!
And the wilderness. I mean, I have
Yeah.
about an acre, and there's just deer coming through, and turkeys, and just the smell of the air and the
if you
pine
have
trees.
pets, keep them inside because we have mountain lions galore up here
I
right
know.
now.
We've just been working on security for my goat. I have
Okay.
a house goat,
Uh-huh.
and when I'm at work, I have them out in a pen. But that's this.
Do you have
Monday.
a top on the pen?
No, we're building this Monday.
Please do.
Yeah.
Because believe me, my neighbors had goats, and the mountain lion came right down, took them right out of the pen. and-
Jeez.
yeah.
I know, it's stressful. I've been, having people help me get the goat in the evening so he's
Right.
not out in the dark. Of course, that's, dusk.
Now, your goat come in the house?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
He's just
so-
like a dog with hooves.
Okay, so what you do then is when you bring them out, I would keep them tethered, keep them close to you. Because
Right.
we've got a couple of them up there, and if they know you have an animal, they will stalk and stalk and stalk. I had a neighbor that had their dog taken right as soon as they took the leash off from a coyote.
I've heard that too. It's
From a
just
coyote.
so scary. Well,
Yeah.
he's always on the leash when he's out in the yard with me. But I'm just worried about, the security in his pen. Eventually, they're going to come for him. So I don't leave him out there very long.
Yeah.
And definitely not.
Coyotes have been
when it's
really
dark.
busy up there too. They've been hunting, and I when I hear them, I just cringe because I know what they're doing.
Well,
and-
he'd rather be in the house. He's just like a small dog.
What's his name?
Billy.
Oh,
It's an
well,
original.
God,
Yeah.
Isn't that cute?
Big old long goatee.
Oh,
He's
how
so cute.
darling! You should bring him in.
He's just like a
sometime.
dog.
Oh, you should bring him in
I will.
sometime. That's going to be great. Does he get to sample your food?
Of course. He loves potato chips. That's his favorite.
Does he? Is he tiny?
He's probably 50 pounds, so he's
How
small.
adorable.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
just-
think that is so cute.
he's cute. He wears clothes and everything. He likes to get dressed up. And
Maybe you should get him one of those beds to sleep in the house. Mm-hmm. Keep him in there with you all the time.
I do.
That is so cute. Well, I am so excited to hear about your trip.
Trip was amazing. Morgan and I had the best time together. We
You're building
ate
a lot of good memories.
amazing French food and the French cheeses and the foie
wine's like
gras.
water.
Oh, and champagne everywhere.
Now you ate foie gras. See,
I did. I love it.
I know that's not my cup of tea.
So good.
You can't buy it in California now, right? It's banned.
Supposedly, yeah.
But it's just
supposedly.
it's fattened liver, right?
It is, but they also make a pate out of it, which is delicious.
Pate's
That's
not bad.
really good.
Yeah.
So we
So
shopped.
you
and
have a very extensive palate.
I love every kind of food.
See, where I'm parts kind of.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I love them all.
Yeah. Oh, see, that's good. And you cook them all, which I think is
Mm-hmm.
great. So, what is something that you would like to? You haven't made yet. That's kind of a challenge that you are looking in your.
Beef Wellington's next on the list.
Good. I want you to come back and tell us about
Okay,
it.
will do.
Have a wonderful weekend. Get out there. There's a lot of activities going on, a lot of things for charity. Please get out and help those in need, especially the Interfaith Food Bank. We need to help those who are less fortunate than we are. And go out there and have a good time. Halloween is right around the corner.
Have fun.
Have fun.
Enjoy.
And enjoy is right. And thank you so very much.
It's my pleasure.
I'm thrilled to have you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, my love. And we'll see you next week.